The WAFB Podcast Network is sponsored by Neighbors Federal Credit Union.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Game Time with John Eads. Happy to be with you. Be sure to like and subscribe if you're new. We talk all things LSU, Baton Rouge area sports. We do interviews, lots of things as part of the WAFB Podcast Network, along with Jacques Doucet and Jacques Talk, the Clay Young Show, the Latangela Show, many shows here on the WAFB platform. This is just one of them where we focus on local athletes, specifically high school, youth, college, and today we're talking about LSU baseball because believe it or not, the season's coming up. It's actually under a month away at this point. Kind of creeps up on you quickly. In the meantime, though, you can enjoy LSU basketball. The women's team is great again, top 5 in the country. The men's team picked up its first SEC win recently against Arkansas, and we'll see if they can turn the ship around and pick up some more conference wins as the season goes along. Maybe sneak into the NCAA tournament. I'm sure we'll find Kim Mulkey and company there. But when it comes to mid-February and beyond, you can really shift your focus as well into LSU baseball while the seasons overlap. And then, as y'all know, since Jay Johnson's been here for many years before that, from April and onward, it's the road to Omaha and winning the national championship, making the College World Series. And I think that LSU has a team that's capable of making it back there for the first time in 2 years. Not only because of the freshmen they're bringing in, we're going to do a separate podcast, separate show on some of the freshmen that are going to be on this team this season and will factor in heavily over the next couple of years before they, hopefully they stay at LSU all 3 years and then go to professional leagues and play minors and all that stuff. It's the number 1 incoming freshman class in the country per a couple of media outlets. So we will do a whole separate show on that. What I want to talk about today is LSU baseball's transfer players to know, because the Tigers also brought in a very good transfer recruiting class, as they typically do every year. Some of the best guys available from JUCO, from small colleges, even from other Power 4, SEC, Big Ten type programs. Obviously, there's been several heralded transfers that have played for this team, not only in Jay Johnson's time, but the years before and other tenures and whatnot. So there's a lot of guys on this list. I think there's at least about 10 transfers in totality from different programs. I want to give you 4 that I know and really think, based on what I've seen in fall ball, the fall scrimmages, the scrimmage out in Biloxi, and things that Jay Johnson and company have said, I think will be really important factors on the team this year. And then a couple others that didn't quite make the list but could easily have. I just, for time purposes, just want to give you 4 that, based on what I've seen enough of, I'm convinced, and I've heard enough to know I think they're going to be key players on what could be a College World Series team this year for LSU. So the first guy we're going to start with is Connor Ware. So he's a left-handed pitcher. He's a junior, decides to come to LSU from Pearl River Community College, where he spent 2 seasons, number 60 junior in all of college baseball by perfect game. So he spent 2 seasons there. This past year, he battled some injuries, didn't play a whole lot, but was good in the time that he did play. Logged 2 saves in 7 appearances with 2 starts, 1.80 ERA, 21 strikeouts in 15 innings. And his brother Bryson actually played at Auburn and was drafted by the Phillies organization in 2023, and he's been working his way up the A and high A ranks since then. His brother Bryson there. So, got the pedigree. Jay Johnson came in, did an interview right here at this table with Jacques Doucet last week and singled Connor Ware out as a guy that has really looked good and been impressive in fall ball. And sometimes you get these community college guys that not a lot of people know about, but they put up good numbers. They were under-recruited for whatever reason, but grow into their frame, catch up to the speed of the game a little bit at the college level, and are ready to come in and be instant impact guys. I've seen Connor Ware pitch. He was a guy that really stole the show in Biloxi. Like Samford, who LSU played that day a couple months ago, could not hit him. Strikeout after strikeout after strikeout, and he's looked good in the inter-squad scrimmages as well in the fall, and I'm sure we'll see more of him leading up to February. But I think he could be in the rotation. Like, he could be your Sunday starter this year. We know how big of a problem that was for LSU last year. You had Luke Holman and Gage Jump, but you didn't have that consistent third-game guy that you could roll out there and would give you a good start. They didn't have that. I think they're going to have that this year because you've got Chase Shores, you've got Cade Anderson, Connor Ware. There's a lot of options, and I think that he will find some kind of a role, if not starting, out of the bullpen, and he'll be kind of like a Griffin Herring type of guy. I think. Another transfer to know, Luis Hernandez, senior utility, but I saw him really just play catcher, maybe do a little bit of designated hitting as well in the fall. He's from Indiana State, number 32 transfer in all of college baseball, per Baseball America, one of the publications, was a first-team All-Missouri Valley performer last year with the Sycamores, Indiana State Sycamores. 359 batting average, 14 doubles, 23 home runs, and 76 RBI. So he's got power, obviously produced quite a bit. The question will be, can that production translate from the MVC to the SEC? It's obviously a jump in competition and the arms that he'll see. What was also impressive about Luis is that he was all defensive team in the Missouri Valley Conference as well as a catcher, and he really showed that in Biloxi as well. He threw 2 guys out at second base trying to steal. He also had an RBI. That was the first run of the game for LSU. So he has that two-way ability, not only as a guy that can help out defending the base pass with a good arm, but he also had some early chemistry as well with Chase Shores and some of the other pitchers. I think that Luis was the guy that Chase had catching in Biloxi for his first kind of real game action start back against a team that's not named LSU. By the way, number 6 senior in college baseball by perfect game, their rankings. So you don't see a lot of talented seniors in college baseball because most of them will try to go pro, because if you don't, you lose your leverage for contracts and money. But with that said, there's still a bunch of good players that decide to come back for another year, and I think Hernandez is one of those guys. He will really help LSU out from not only an offensive but a defensive standpoint, and we'll get more into this when I wrap up when we talk about some of the other transfers. LSU has legitimate catcher depth this year. They had it a little bit last year with Brady Neal, who had his moments but also had his struggles, was also injured for points, and Alex Milazzo, who had to put the team on his back at times. I don't think it's going to be like that this year. You have potent options that you could roll out there, some different lineups and different guys at catcher, so nobody's getting tired or gassed, and everybody's at their best physically and mentally when they need to play and step up. Another pitcher, Anthony Ianson. So this one, number 3 here, and these are in no particular order, could have gone to Jacob Myers, the Nicholls State transfer who played at Sanoma, but Ianson, again, is a guy that was really singled out, and maybe that's because Jacques specifically asked about him. But Jay Johnson had a very funny story about how he went to the Cape Cod League, was there for scouting another player, saw Ianson pitching, and was like, who's this guy? And at the time, of course, he was at UC San Diego, and Coach Johnson was like, oh, good for that head coach, who I'm sure he has a personal connection with, having, being a West Coast guy and all. Months later, Ianson enters the transfer portal, and a scout reached out to Jay and said, hey, Ianson's in the portal, because Jay had previously been impressed by what he'd seen from this pitcher. And then Jay said, he texted back to the scout, the agent, whoever, who's Ianson, quote unquote. Now he knows who he is, and he's very glad to have him. One of the best transfers in college baseball, number 4 by Baseball America. So he goes from a guy that stuck out to Coach Johnson to a guy that's now on his team and will pitch in some capacity for the Tigers this year. He's a junior, right-handed, number 87 junior in college baseball. So Myers was actually rated higher than him. But another publication, Perfect Game, has Ianson as a preseason second-team All-American. So for whatever reason, mostly good reasons, I'm sure, they think he's going to have a big year. Like, he's going to be heavily involved. He'll be a starter, possibly in this pitching rotation, battling with Ware and Shores and Anderson. So we'll see. I mean, he's put up good stats before. He was all Big West second team in 2024, 6-2 record, 3.07 ERA, 82 innings pitched, 14 games. 85 strikeouts, and opponent batting average was 190. So those are really good numbers there. He's a guy that's proven he can play. Now can he play in the SEC? That's what we're going to find out. So again, it could have been Ianson, could have been Jacob Myers. Ideally, both of them are so good that they warrant time right here in the microphone being talked about, because you can never have enough arms. I think we learned that. LSU fans learned that last year when LSU had its struggles with the pen and with starters. Shouldn't be a problem this year, I don't think. And then one last guy to highlight, Daniel Dickinson. He's an infielder. He's a junior. I saw him playing some third base, some second base, some shortstop. Jay Johnson said that Stephen Milam is likely going to move to the left side of the infield. He played second base all of last year. Tommy White was at third. Of course, Michael Braswell, the third, was at shortstop. He should be back at that shortstop position, though I'm sure he could move around. I saw them moving and shaking in the inner squads, also in Biloxi. Dickinson was playing some third. Milan was playing some third. Braswell played a little bit of second. So I don't know. That might be a rotating thing. They might try things out and try to settle in on a final rotation of where they want guys based on how they perform in the games, and then go from there. So it's nice to have some versatility. Dickinson from Utah Valley, projected to be a first-team All-American by perfect game. So Ianson was second team, Dickinson first team. And these are the only two that I saw on the All-American list from LSU, which is a little confusing because there's some really good players on this team. Milam, who I mentioned, Braswell, who I mentioned, Jared Jones, a guy that's not getting talked about enough, Chase Shores. There's a lot of other guys that could have been All-Americans, but they love these two transfers for LSU, so that must mean they're going to come in and do some big things for Jay Johnson's team. So Dickinson, Jay made this comment recently as well. Go check out that full interview, by the way, if you're interested. Jacques Talk with Jacques Doucet, our sports director, and Jay Johnson. It's on our YouTube page. It's about 30 minutes. Really, really good stuff. Coach gives some great insight, which we really appreciate. Dickinson, the number 14. Johnson said because he reminds him of Pete Rose, how hard he plays, how hard he works, and he thinks that Dickinson will be a fan favorite quickly, just based on his work ethic and other things like that. So that's very high praise, and that's stuff you like to hear. Certainly nice to have fans backing players and liking their qualities, so he should be a good representative of this team, of this university. Number 2 transfer in baseball by Baseball America. So, this is a 5-star. This is as if you were getting a big-time quarterback in the transfer portal for football, it seems like. To be number 2 in the entire thing, that's a big deal. And with good reason. 369 career batting average at Utah Valley, 27 homers, 95 RBI, 457 on base percentage. Most of that production came last year. He was a first-team all-WAC performer. 363 batting average last season, 14 doubles, 2 triples, 53 RBI, 18 home runs, and 32 stolen bases. So he impacts the game in a lot of different ways. I saw him taking some walks in the fall. I saw him have some good defensive moments, throwing guys out, finishing double plays, tracking the ball well. I don't recall seeing his power at the forefront in terms of doubles and home runs. I don't know if I saw him hit a home run, but I remember seeing graphics by their analytics team saying that he did hit some home runs in some of the close scrimmages and stuff. So I'm sure it's there. He hit 2/3 of his career home runs last season. So Daniel Dickinson, another guy to know. So the 4 names, just to recap: Connor Ware, left-handed pitcher; Luis Hernandez, a senior catcher; Anthony Ianson, a right-handed pitcher. He's a junior. And then Daniel Dickinson, an infield guy, getting ready for his junior year and will likely go pro after that. A couple other guys. I mentioned Jacob Myers. I think he's going to factor in. He had a really good season at Nichols last year. Struck out 10 batters in 2 different games in the Southland Conference Tournament, if I'm not mistaken. Pitched a good game against UNO as well. So he's been there, done that as well. Not at the SEC level, but in college baseball, which you like. Same with Chandler Dorsey, relief pitcher from South Florida. Chris Stanfield is an outfielder who had some good moments in the fall, good defensive plays, good offensive moments. He was involved in that Biloxi scrimmage quite heavily, so you'll see him rotating, maybe even starting often in that outfield. He did that at Auburn previously. Blaze Priester, a catcher from Meridian Community College. He was also on LSU's team in 2022, so he left, spent 2 years at the community college level. Now he's back. Great power, good pop in his bat. I think he's going to play a lot. He'll be in that catcher rotation as well. You got Zach Cowan, a pitcher from Wofford, who you may have seen in that regional in Chapel Hill earlier this year, or last year, I guess now. He didn't pitch against LSU, but he did pitch in the other games in that regional, and Wofford was a very tough team, and he's a high strikeout guy. Jay Johnson's talked highly about him. I saw him a little bit this fall. Mixed results, but, it's inter-squad fall scrimmages. You can't put a ton of stock into it. And then one other guy is Connor Bench, a transfer from first LSU Eunice, I'm sorry, the LSU school that's nearby here, near Alexandria there. So he transferred from there to Dallas Baptist and pitched and hit there, and I think he could be involved as well. Dallas Baptist was an NCAA tournament team last year, who LSU's actually going to play in Texas earlier in the season, I think mid-March or so. We should be going to that game, if I'm not mistaken. Last I heard we are. So there you go. Transfers to know. I gave you the 4 big ones. I gave you some other guys to keep your ears and eyes out for who I think will be involved as well. I think this is a good team. Good high school players, good transfers. First pitch banquet is actually tonight as I'm recording this, and the season opener is coming up in a little under a month against Purdue Fort Wayne And from there, we'll see how it goes. But there seems to be a confidence about Jay Johnson, about what he's done in the portal. He worked tirelessly to put this roster together. LSU fell just shy of hosting a Super Regional last year. In fact, one run away from hosting the Super Regional last year, potentially going to Omaha. And Jay Johnson has said it before. He's obsessed with getting to Omaha, getting to the College Baseball World Series. And I'm sure that's going to be at the forefront of his goals for this team. And it all starts in less than a month. So more baseball coverage to come. Stay locked in to our WAFB podcast network and Game Time with John Eads. And again, be sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you guys soon.